looking at the title. You guys see the title? It says, what kind of parents are you? So we're going to be talking about parenting. We'll get there. We'll get there. You'll see.
Oh.
So welcome everybody. Welcome to Wisdom Friday. Friday Wisdom.
Or lack thereof, depending upon.
Right, we're coming to you all the way from North Carolina. If you're new here, say hi. We will welcome you to actually we're in our dining room, our formal dining room. That's where we record from. So yeah, we are so happy to see you, and I really appreciate all the responses and all the, I guess, positive messages that we've been getting on our videos. And I looked at the last Wisdom Friday, and I saw a question that I thought would be nice to answer. So I will definitely bring that up.
Hi, Benita.
There's a Benita?
I think it's trying to read, you know.
If you want, you can move the camera closer if you want. Okay, so yeah, a lot of people, I have a few notes here. A lot of people loved Kenton's advice last time. You went on about, we were talking about jobs and expectations and people balancing more than one job, and yeah, there was a lot of positive comments or feedback about your advice. So they like hearing from you.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. I'm not used to it. So
he's not used to it.
No.
But yeah, we get a lot of love. It's interesting when we don't get love. Sometimes it's from the people you least expect. But anyway, we won't get into that.
What?
All I can say is, if there's anything that we're saying that upsets you, don't watch.
No.
But we'll keep it positive. We'll keep it positive.
I don't know what that is about. But anyways, I appreciate it. Again, this is dialogue. That's the thing. It's just like any conversation. You're sharing stuff, and sometimes there's going to be disagreements.
Right.
But that's healthy. See, I think that's the thing. It's like it's okay to disagree,
right?
As long as you don't disrespect.
Right. As long as a person is not, overly condescending, overly, negative, and starts
toxic.
Cursing. Because we can definitely agree to disagree, and I can still walk away and respect you.
Yeah, and you need difference of opinions because again, it's like. Different perspectives help to make things clear. If everyone thinks the same way, it's very hard to solve a problem.
Right.
This is actually one of the things is like even what they use as strategies in process improvement, like in NASA. When you have a problem, they try to bring people from different specialties and different perspectives. It's the same thing in medicine.
Right. But I think the goal there is when people have a common goal to solve a problem, whereas some people, their agenda is simply to put you down. They're not interested in hearing your point of view. They just they've already made up their minds, and they're just there to put you down.
Well, of course,
because you disagree.
Well, yeah, you're always going to find in everything. It's always going to be individuals,
right?
And
Go ahead.
that will constantly create friction.
Right.
And so again,
they like drama.
Well, yeah, but and it's in everywhere, whether it's in a family, whether it's in work, whether it's whatever, and so it's how you deal with those kind of differences in a way, and that negativity and making those determinations. Especially like going to holidays, as families get together, we all come from different spaces. And so if it's not healthy, then yeah, that's when you have to create that distance to maintain that, because so that's what's important.
Right.
But at the same time, it's also you're making sure it's a balanced approach, that if you're contributing to that, where you're baiting people, where you're creating the environment that solicits conflict, then yeah, you're kind of part and parcel of it. So you have to also take responsibility if it lies within you as well. So.
Okay, so on our agenda, I have a question here from a lady, Keisha Anderson, on the last video. Hopefully Miss Anderson would watch this. She says, when did you have the talk with your children? ? When did you have the talk with your children ? I'm referring, and let me segue and say, when I heard she said the talk, My initial thought was the sex talk. That's what I was thinking.
Oh, there's
Because
also,
that's where my mind goes.
well, that's great. That's, I mean, there's all
That's where
different,
my mind goes.
yeah, I mean, there's all different kinds of talks though. I
Right.
mean, just like having a talk with, I mean, for us, it's relevant for us, like having a talk with our children, particularly with the boys, about dealing with the police or dealing with, that system. And
Right.
especially with, things that, have been going on, and not just in the recent, couple of years, but really their whole life, and dealing with those issues and conflicts and stuff like that. Because the moment they walk out the door,
Right.
they're going to be judged by not the content of their character, but the color of their skin, and that's just a sad fact. And
Right.
so,
That's just the
so
sad
that's
fact.
another talk. So there's all kinds of talk.
Right. Okay. So she goes on to say, I'm referring to the financial talk of how to be fiscally responsible, full stop. So she says basically, when did you have the talk with your children? I'm referring to the financial talk of how to be fiscally responsible. What age were the children and how did you entrust them? I think that's what that says. Yeah.
Interest them, yeah.
Right.
Well, the thing is that the talk was a conversation.
An ongoing one.
Yeah, see, and I think that's what it is. It's not like having a talk. It's I think going back to the situation and talking about justice and society and stuff. It's been an ongoing conversation. So you just make it appropriate to the age that they are. So I don't think that it's a specific age. Matter of fact, the sooner the better, because you ingrain in them a certain sense of like fiscal responsibility. So basically, even at a young age, you start with some, again, basic values. Like you don't take more than what you put in. See, that's a basic concept that a young child can learn. Just like sharing. So you have a bowl of candy, and there's 4 of them, and there's 4 pieces, or there's 5 pieces. You don't take more than what is there, because so that's part of it, unless you put back. So one of the things we teach kids is that you don't take more than what you give. So there's a social responsibility because of that. So that's part of the sharing. The other thing about fiscal responsibility that translates to fiscal, but it's also that you earn your keep. So our kids did chores,
Right.
and not because then we didn't pay them. See, that's the thing. You did the chores, and again, everyone has their different value system. So it's just how you incorporate it into the structure of the child. So one of the values that we have is just that you need to do things because there's inherent worth in them, because it's your turn. So and they still and now they just do it.
Right.
We don't even ask them. They set up their own schedule.
Right. It's so funny because now, when they come home, they immediately go back into that, okay, whose turn is it to do dishes between them? Like they already assume that it's their responsibility to do that. Or when the boys come home, they know they are going to go out and cut the grass or cut the hedges or whatever, the upkeep of the house, without us even asking them. But I was thinking back in terms of, finances or financial responsibility. I think also they learn from us, because I have to say that, we've had certain experiences coming or at least as immigrants in the United States, where we've had some financial difficulties, where our kids can look at it and we constantly remind them that you don't want to be like us. You don't want to have some of the debt that we had. Our parents did the best they could with what they had. And when I think specifically of, say, my mother here in the US as a single parent, trying to manage 3 children and trying to make sure that we all went to college, unfortunately, with that we had debt. I had student loans, and it's been a long, big struggle, if I'm completely honest, paying back student loans. So the point is, because we know better, we have tried to instill in our kids from an early age that these are the resources you must look into, and these are the things you must do to try to make sure you don't have that kind of debt. So, I look specifically at, say, our son Khalid, and I think because of our guidance, of course, because of his abilities too, but because of our guidance and his abilities, he's managed to go through high school, college, and now where he is without debt, which is not something we were able to do, again, because of our children, because of our parents' resources or lack of, resources and know-how. So I think that's what I think of is a big example. Like, our children really know how important it is, to have a savings account, or my son, or our son is really into stocks and, and things like that. Things I didn't know at his age. I really didn't know those things.
Again, but the thing is that those are outgrowth of values, though. Everything comes from values.
Right.
But
our parents sometimes didn't know that. Didn't know those things.
No, but they didn't know those things. But it's also because, again, it's also if you don't know, you can't teach, right?
Right, okay, exactly. So we know better, we teach them early.
We teach them if the opportunity is there. But not everyone has those opportunities. So what do you do? See, so that's the thing. You can't, that's the thing, because what translates into one circumstances doesn't necessarily translate to another.
Right.
So what if you have the ability, but unfortunately, because again, a limitation of resources, there's only so many scholarships. There are only so many. So how do you finance school? And sometimes it's about looking at different ways. Some ways is to look at, again, if there's a 4-year university, it might be more opportune for the person to go into a least expensive school and then transfer to graduate to a more expensive school. Right. So they basically save the money in the general education first 2 years. And then in the upper classes, which are more of the functioning classes towards the profession, then you get those at the higher school. So then, you save money in that sense, and then hopefully also have a higher GPA and move it. Other things is to also look at in also conventional and unconventional financing models as well. So which things that we didn't have, for example, like crowdfunding. They didn't have that. They also didn't have some of the scholarship programs that they have now. So it's also about those things. But again, like I say, you're right. It's like if your parents didn't know how they're going to teach you, right?
Right.
So that's the thing, and I think.
Or sometimes you had parents that they're just not as involved. That's the truth too. There's some parents, it's not even about their lack of knowledge or ability. They're just not as involved, or they don't think it's as important, or they just can't be bothered. That's unfortunate, but it's true. There are people like that.
Yeah, and so that's the challenge. And so so that's, if you're in that situation where, unfortunately, because that's the thing, is that there's studies have shown that many times, especially for people of color, it's not about getting into the school, it's about finishing. There's a higher rate of dropout, and much of that is not because of lack of ability. That's not even it. It's lack of resources, because if there's instability in the family, many times the young person drops out of school because they have to become the breadwinner, or they have to take care of someone that's become sick, or they're not no longer financially, the family no longer is able to financially contribute, even if it's a little bit. So there's a high level of food insecurity, of housing insecurity for these students. And so this creates also that dynamic of dropout because of lack of resources. So again, in teaching fiscal responsibility, I think that it starts as early as possible at the level that the child is capable of understanding, and it starts off with just basic values of saving, of delayed gratification. Those things are obviously built into it. Investing in stocks is delayed gratification, because if you think you're going to put money in, there are always going to be cases where it goes in, and in the 90 days or 120 days it doubles and triples, but on average it's really not. It's about that. It's about investing, value investing over long term. And a lot of that Khalid has learned from stocks. It's not just on his own, but also through your mother.
Right.
She's a big investor and stuff like that. So So you gotta give credit to
Right, which I mean later in life.
yeah,
Later in life. I
yeah.
don't think that's something she
No, but
was
but the whole
doing
point is
early
that,
on.
but that's not, the whole point is that,
It takes a village,
yeah,
is
it takes a
basically what you're
village,
trying
and
to
so, but
say.
what happens when you don't have a village? And so I think that's where also, again, that's part of the community, is that it's also helping others as well, and creating these other resources that can help to
Right.
fill in those gaps,
Right,
so.
right. Okay, and then I also wanted to say thank you to everyone. Yeah, thank you to everyone who has reached out about the recipe book or the cake book that I'm working on. Thank you to everyone that has, sent me an email requesting the free ebook. I'm hoping that everyone who has requested it has actually gotten it and opened it and gone through it. And some of you have actually sent me back some really positive feedback. I mean, actually, everyone who has gotten back to me has given me positive feedback or pointed out something that I might need to adjust before it's published. So I really appreciate that. And and then also thank you to everyone who made suggestions about what we should do with the pumpkin, the big pumpkin that we had. Because I had this like, what the hell should I make with the pumpkin? People said pumpkin pie, pumpkin muffins, pumpkin ice cream,
Pumpkin ice cream, yeah.
pumpkin stew. So we're thinking of making a pumpkin soup with that giant pumpkin. Anyway, you'll see what we do with it come hopefully Sunday. I think you're going to join me. All right, back to the parenting thing, since that's the theme of this video. I saw this thing about 4 styles of parenting, and I'm kind of curious which style you think you are, Kenton, and which style you, the viewer, thinks you are. Or what style of parenting you think also your parents had with you. All right, so let's see. So according to this program, Sprouts, there are 4 styles in general. I'm generalizing of parenting. There is number 1, the authoritarian parents. These are the ones that are controlling, demanding, where they just demand obedience without considering the individual child's point of view.
This is parenting?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
This is a type of parent, the
I thought-
authoritative parenting.
Oh, I thought you were talking about spouses. Okay.
No,
No?
I'm talking about, the parents. And I'm sure if you have had African parents, not to put down all African parents, but I'm coming from my point of view, we all
mom's not
have
African.
those. What's that?
Your mom's not African.
My mom's not African? No. I'm thinking like specifically of my father. No shade. Hopefully my father, it might be a different type of parent now. I don't know. But when I was growing up, my dad was definitely the authoritative or authoritarian type of parent. You do what I say, no explanation, no whatever. Your point of view is irrelevant, kind of thing. And, you come down with the heavy hammer. All right, let me read through the different types.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Number 2, the permissive parent. The permissive parents are loving, but they don't exert any control. So there are no rules. And we know those type of parents too. The permissive parents, loving, but don't exert any control, no rules. Then number 3 is the authoritative. See, it's different. The first one I said is authoritarian. This one is authoritative parents are firm but loving, and they encourage independence within limits. There are limits.
You're not late. Anyone that's coming on saying you're late, you're not late. We're late.
It's okay.
The time difference. But people are so polite.
Oh, really?
They're saying they're sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay.
You're good. You're not
So
late.
yeah, we're talking about different types of parenting styles.
Yeah,
And then the 4th one is the neglecting parent. The parents that are uninvolved and are often uninterested in their own child, which is unfortunately. So in summary, authoritarian type of parent, permissive parent, authoritative parent, or neglecting parent. So which one would you say, Kenton? Let's start with which one would you say you are or you have been?
I don't know. I don't like boxes.
No. In general, I know you don't like
I have no
boxes.
idea. It depends on the moment of the child.
Okay.
Because sometimes you'll look at me and you say like, "Oh, I let them walk all over me." So, but then you're authoritarian because you're telling me what to do. So I don't know.
All right. No, I would say you're pretty balanced. I would say you're
I have
more
no
of
idea.
a authoritative parent. You're very loving and you encourage independence, but there's also limits. Yes, sometimes in the past, I would also say you can be a little bit permissive, but never to the
That's
point
relative.
where, yeah, never to the point where there's no control or there's no rules. Definitely not. And I also think of myself as someone who is authoritative in terms of loving, but I encourage independence and within limits. But sometimes, depending on if you catch me in the wrong mood, yes, I can be an authoritarian type of person in general, but I definitely try not to be because I'm always in my mind, I'm always thinking about the things I didn't like, growing up, or the things that I did not prefer. Right. So, like I said, I would definitely think when I think of number one, authoritarian, I think of my father to a certain extent. And I think of a lot of African parents, and maybe not even African parents, even Caribbean parents, some can be like that. I think maybe that's just a lot of ethnic groups could be like that. And then when I think of permissive parents, I think of the parents that just spoil their kids and just let them do any kind of thing. And I think a lot of times when I think of certain stereotypical American parents, I do sometimes think that. I've been places where you see the kid rolling on the ground, screaming and crying, and the mom just looking at the kid, and I'm dying inside because I'm like, how could you? How could you let your child just run amok and disrespect you like that? But not even disrespect you, but just not get handled in the appropriate way. And I'm not talking about corporal punishment, but I definitely do not believe in just letting your kid, 4 or 5 years old, yell and scream and you don't correct them.
Now, one perspective is that is that not everyone has the capacity,
Right.
because some kids are quite challenging, and it's
True,
not. I mean, not
true.
necessarily be
True.
because again, see, the thing is that it's kind of like children, just like adults. Parenting is one part of that makes parenting work is customization. See, especially when you have more than one.
Right.
So, but each one is different. Each one has
True.
different personality, and
True.
so one approach may not necessarily always
Right.
work with the other one. And so
Right.
sometimes, so a lot of times, if you don't have the capacity to expand and meet with the
What child,
emotional
where they are.
and communication needs of the child, then you'll go to authoritarian. Hey, listen, this is what I'm telling you because I'm the adult.
Right,
You're
I
the
said
child.
so.
I say so.
Right.
End of story. Eat your peas and then go do your homework. That's
Right.
it. You're not there to negotiate because time is of the essence. You don't have it, and so there's sometimes you go to a certain styles because of other constraints in regards to
True.
that.
And then there are times where I think, well, some people shouldn't even be parents. There's some people who have no business. Maybe they're not ready, or like you said, maybe they're not equipped to deal with.
Well, I mean, I definitely, when we had our son, I was freaking out the first night. I mean, I don't think you're ever really ready. Are you really not ready? I think that's the thing. It's like there's not. You just pray to God that you have the wisdom and the strength, and that you humble yourself, that your child's a gift, and then that you're worthy of this precious gift. I mean, that was just my frame of mind when I brought him home.
Right, right, and and that's I think that's a healthy
but
point of view.
I think but I'm saying I don't think that anyone's like ready. I mean,
well, ready in terms of psychologically. Sometimes there are people who, we all to a certain degree, if we're honest, have somehow psychologically, I don't want to say maybe extreme, damaged our children to a certain degree, but there are some people where they really have no business having
Well,
children.
yes, I mean, no, I
You
mean,
know,
they don't have, they
they
don't
are
have,
just messing these
no, no,
kids
I mean,
up.
there are people that, yeah, that, I mean, unqualifiedly, they don't have the skill set, the capacity, the resources on
Right,
many levels. You know, one, there's no such thing as a perfect parent, so that's a myth. So we can get off of that horse. But the
right,
other thing too is, yeah, on the other extreme, there, you know, that, and that's why you have services and stuff to protect the innocent. Is that, yeah, you have people that just don't have, just don't have any business being in relationships either. You know, because of anger issues, of just not having the capability of even caring for another human being, let alone
right,
care for themselves.
right.
You know, so especially if they have you know, psych issues and stuff like that. So those are those cases, and unfortunately, there's a lot of them out there, and that's why you see you know, children are placed in very bad situations,
Right,
child services, and
right.
you know,
Especially the quote, neglecting
neglected,
pairing.
yeah, neglecting parent. I think that's the neglecting parent, and sometimes, yeah, also, or you have people that also have gone through trauma and haven't had you know, the care and the resources to get mental health care and stuff like that, to work through that trauma, and they end up inadvertently, you know, perpetuating that trauma onto children
Right,
and stuff like that. You know, they experience neglect, and so you know, they perpetuate that cycle of neglect as well.
right.
So you know, so there's a lot of that. So again, you know, and then sometimes it's just that, you know, you may have all the best intentions, and this is something that never gets talked about and stuff. Maybe you have all the best intentions, but you know, again, this child that comes into the world, you know, it's not like, you know, it is of you, but it is also
Right.
of the world, in the sense
Sometimes you
that
can't
you can't
predict
predict their
their
personality and stuff like
personality
that.
or
And so,
behavior.
right,
Right.
and so,
It's not like, yeah, you really get to determine
yeah,
how
and
they,
so,
you know,
yeah,
will
you,
conduct themselves all the time. You
right,
can guide them, but
right.
ultimately their personality is going to be their personality.
Right. So I mean, you know, and so how do you
Say not now, yeah, just
yeah, so
pressure.
how you know, how you you know, you deal with that, and that's part of that thing, is just that, you know, you expect you know, a child, and say for example, just, you know, your child you know, comes out with different perspectives, or you know, thinks of things in a different way, and you know, that creates conflict, or just communicates in a way that you're not comfortable. You're an extrovert, child's an introvert, some, you know, basic like that.
Right.
Sometimes there's extremes where, you know, your child comes out gay, you know, and how do you deal with that? Is that, you know, whether you know, you're accepting, or whether you love your child, you may not agree with the lifestyle. I mean, again, it's
Yeah, there's
all,
so many
there
different
are different
scenarios.
variations and
I
stuff.
mean, to me, I think all of that, yeah, it doesn't really, it's not a huge deal to me, except for if my child is doing anything that's going, breaking the law. It's a big,
Or hurting
like,
other
breaking the
people.
law, hurting
Uh,
other people. Then, you know, that's going to be a problem. But
yeah,
everything else, I think I can pretty much deal with,
work with.
or work with. Yeah, you know, just don't be a serial killer. Don't hurt
Yeah,
anybody. Don't break the law.
yeah, eating people is like a,
That's like,
yeah, it's like, yeah, you're creating these little
you know, but
eating
everything
people,
else,
you
yeah.
know, work for an evil corporation, eating people. All right, you know, yeah, you got to create some
Right.
levels there.
And if you don't want to get slapped, don't disrespect me. That's also, you know, that's the ethnic part of me. You cannot disrespect me as your parent. I'm sorry. Now, some of y'all will think that's a little off, but
You
that's
need
just
to,
me.
you know, you need
And
to,
my kids know that.
you need
They
to,
know that.
you need to
They need
like,
to get checked every now and then. They
you
need to
need to
get
check your,
checked.
you need to check yourself with my kids, you know.
Because it's the same way, you know, I try my best not to disrespect my mother. Obviously, now we're at an age where I'm an adult, you know, she's an adult, obviously,
Adultish,
adultish, and we're
this is
sometimes
age.
more like, oh, we have been for years, almost like sister friends, you know, with my mom. And sometimes, yeah, she can be annoying, and I know I can be annoying to her. But there's some boundaries where, you know, I would never put my hands on my mother, absolutely not. And yet in America, you will see situations where people are fighting their relatives and, putting their hands on each other. And I'm just like, I can't imagine. I
Where do you
can't
see
believe
that?
that. Don't ask me where I see that. I see that all the time. You see that all
Are
the
you raising your
time.
voice to me?
Yes,
I
I'm
will not
raising.
accept any
I'm raising
disrespect.
my voice.
I will not accept
I'm
any
raising my voice to you. So no, seriously. There's some boundaries, but I should be able to be completely honest with my mother without being disrespectful, and vice versa. And my daughter, she's kind of getting there where she feels she should be able to be honest and straightforward, and I think that's fine. But as long as there's no underlying disrespect
All right.
or being condescending, or I feel like I'm too grown and I'm too smart and I know everything,
Yeah.
so now I can talk to you any kind of way. No, because I will lose it.
Yeah.
I will absolutely lose
But
it,
I
and
think
that's just me being real.
Yeah, but I think the thing too is that it has to be from both sides of the parents. It's like
Right.
the same thing is they can't disrespect you in talking with me. You should be
Right.
playing one. It's like no, it's like you disrespect your mother, you're disrespecting me. It
Right.
works both ways. It's just you
His
don't.
spouse is right. You have to stand up for each other,
Yeah,
because kids, some smart kids or evil little kids, they will play one parent against the other.
Well,
And
yeah.
especially if you let it happen,
I mean, everyone tries. I mean, like when they ask for permission for something, it's like they know who to go to.
Right.
And the thing is, it's like, no, does your mother know? Okay, if your mother doesn't know, then we need to have a discussion.
Right.
Both.
United front between the two of
There has
us
to
when
be.
it comes to
Yeah,
parenting.
that's the thing. Yeah, and that's also part of that. That's what I'm saying is that's also part of a conversation, as part of the process. Is that
Right.
they know that they can't just go to one or the other. It has to be. It's a joint conversation in regards to stuff like that, unless it's a surprise or something.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Now, when you think back at how you were parented,
I
right?
don't
I know you didn't talk about it, but how do you feel like now you are different as a parent, or in reaction to
Well, again,
what you do different?
yeah. In all fairness, I mean, my mother did the best that she could, and in light of the circumstances and stuff, and people just do the best they can. I think when you're younger, again, when your parents are, the expectation is that you kind of put them on a pedestal because that's all you know. And it's amazing children have that capacity that they will love, even a parent that abuses them, they still love that parent. That's even a child that gets abandoned, they will seek out that parent. Because it's ingrained in us as part of our self identity and in many ways our self worth, and so that's why it becomes such a when it is negative, it can be very traumatic, and it's something that has to get worked through.
Right.
In some ways, part of our job of being parents is also to provide that level of dysfunction so that your kids can go, okay, we can pick what didn't work and then move on, because like I said, there's no manual, there's no there is some guidances,
There's some guidelines
but
nowadays,
again,
especially modern times.
but again, it's getting like everything many times is also opinions, because again, at some point authoritarian parenting did work, especially when the world was much more hostile.
Or when they're like 2 and 3 years old.
Well, no, but it's also
maybe.
more than no. But when you had a higher level of child death and infant mortality and stuff like that, it was harder also to be more attached. I think a lot of our parenting methodology is coming from a source of also of abundance in many levels. We have tools and instrumentalities that we didn't have before. And so now. There's also a higher level, many ways of education too, or access to it. So, so I think that. But on the other hand, like you say, that there's, I think there's a little bit more permissiveness. I think sometimes we shirk our duty as parents because we want to be friends. And I think that's all fine and stuff. But again, this is where I don't think you need to be friends with a 5-year-old.
No.
No, I think you need to
What
take
about
care of.
friends with a 20-year-old
You know what? See, the thing is,
or
again,
friends with
I
a
go,
30-year-old
well, I
child?
mean, I'm friendly, but I'm not my kids' friends. See, that's the thing. That's why they have their own peer group. You know, I'm friendly, but I'm more of a coach and a mentor because I'm objective. You
Sure.
know, and see, with your friends, they're not that objective because they're your support system, right? So they're going like, yeah, man, you know, everything's cool. Yeah,
You're the shit,
you're the
you know,
best.
yeah,
You
you're
know,
the best.
when you came out of the oven, no other bread can be better than you. And you know, in the social media, yeah, go do it. You know, low yo, bellow, whatever, you know, and they go on. But as a parent, you go like, yeah, I've been there, done that. That's great, but consider this or consider that. You know, kind of think about that. And it'd be like, yeah, sure, but you know, my buddy's doing this. Okay, that's fair enough. But you know, just think about it.
I mean, yeah, I
I mean,
definitely
that's
get
just
what
my
you're
approach.
saying, but
Some
I think
people
for
would
me
say,
personally,
yeah,
I
it's
find that as my children get older, I mean, I always tell them they know, oh, you're always mommy, but I always tell them, but I also think of you as my friend in certain ways. I definitely think of my kids as they've gotten older as friends in a way. I'm definitely always their mother, and you know,
no, that's
sometimes I
nice.
can switch between, and I think when you do that too early, that's when it gets confusing. You know, when the kid is like, well, you know, yesterday you were acting like my friend, and right now you're trying to give me rules, or then
But
it becomes very confusing for the child.
well, but that's my point. That's why my point is that I'm friendly, but I'm not a friend.
Right.
I'm still, you know, and also that's where the coaching and mentoring is that, you know, I'm pointing things out, but you can bounce this off with your friends, with your peer group, and you know,
Right.
because that's where you have a common, you know, social experience, and you know, and then you know, aggregate it, put it together how it works for you and stuff like that, and bounce it off. But I'm not here to, you know, hey, let's go and you know, do whatever you guys do. I mean, that's just, you know, whatever. I mean, but, you know, if we,
No, but you know, they come home, you want to hang out with them,
well, I
you
want
want
to
to do
have,
things with them.
yeah, but
You
the thing,
say, oh, here's my buddy Kareem.
yeah, he's
So
my
you
buddy.
certainly treat your sons like they're your friend.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
I don't go drinking with them.
Yeah, but because they don't go drinking and you don't go drinking. So that's
Well,
not the, you
no,
know,
that's not the point.
that's
Yeah, I
not an
don't. Okay, I
example.
don't drink. But if I did drink, I would go out. I wouldn't go out with them. But I don't drink, so yeah. But the point is that yeah. But I don't. Yeah, but I don't see them as like
Yes.
friends, as peers. No, even when you know, if I last long enough, where they're around 40, 45 or
Right.
whatever, you know. I mean, yeah.
Why do you say that? What do you mean if you last long enough? What was
Well,
that?
the 20 and 25 years. You know, I mean, the average life expectancy.
Yeah.
Well, it's dropped
So how old
2.5
will you
years.
be in 25 years?
I don't remember that, but
Who was that? Why are we going to law school if you don't expect your life to be at
and
least
that's
25 more
and
years?
that's what I'm debating now.
You're debating what?
What?
You're debating what?
What? See, these are the techniques in conversation.
Uh-huh. You turn into the Matrix.
That's right. That's right.
You don't answer the question.
What?
What? Suddenly you're deaf.
That's right.
Yes, better be here in 20 years.
If I still have some.
Let me see. Yeah, of course you'll be here in 20 years,
You
God
never know.
willing.
God
No, you never
willing.
will.
You
No,
never
you
know.
never know. But we hope so. We certainly
We'll
hope
see.
so.
We'll see.
If not, I'll just find me a nice young,
All right, folks, you're here, right here.
nice young
Here you
piece
go.
of.
Yeah. Piece of infection. You better hope they come out with some vaccines.
Vaccines for what?
For stupidity.
You know, get my old tummy
Hey, we're
tuck.
supposed to be talking about parenting.
You know, so no, you stop planning on being gone. I'll
right.
stop planning on my
You
new
should
man.
stop planning,
I'll be taking
yeah.
applications soon.
Hopefully they can spell and write. But go ahead. What's
That's
the next
all I
one?
got.
That's all you got.
That's
Oh, there you
all I
go,
got.
folks. There you go, folks. That's how it is. So you go from parenting to planning a homecoming and then the second act,
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, well, anyway, if you
Tyrone.
want, leave us a question. We will answer.
Yeah, if you-
Can you see the screen?
Yeah, well, I see a screen, but yeah, if you guys have any questions, or you have like a scenario or
Right, you have a
situation,
scenario, you're having
know.
challenges with your teenager or
My
your
man's-
adult child.
My man's a deadbeat.
Please
What
go
do I
ahead
do?
and share.
He don't want to work no more.
Oh, you know what's interesting on a different note, if someone doesn't leave me a question? What do you think about us? And I'm not going to divulge her name or her information or
please
none
don't.
of that, none of that.
No.
But what do you think about us at our age adopting? What do you think about us adopting? You know, we've been playing with the idea or talking about it on and off for years. And we actually, if you don't know, we actually went through the foster care adoption process a couple of years ago. Maybe
Well,
been?
it sounded like we went through the process.
Well, we did. We took the classes.
Yeah,
we
well,
went through all
we
that.
did classes, but we never.
We just didn't. Yeah, we didn't complete it because
complete
for
the
different
classes.
reasons.
Yeah, we just, you know.
And then we just kind of, yeah. Anyway, now the idea pops back up, you know, as empty nesters, and we definitely have a lot more love and energy to
No.
give to another child. We don't?
No, I just changed my mind.
You changed your mind like an hour ago?
Yeah.
So this one here comes to me to ask, like, yes, he's still interested in adopting and whether we should, you know, consider and look into it. So I don't know. How do you feel about that? I mean, obviously it's our decision, our choice, but I'm just wondering, like, do you think it's appropriate or okay for a 50-year-old to adopt? I think of it's almost like, do we really want to start over? You know, do we really want to start? Do we really want to be dealing with diapers or putting a child through kindergarten? Like,
Well, how young are we talking about adopting? Is that what?
well, I would think like, yeah, like anywhere from the age of, I don't know, from the age of a newborn all the way to maybe 6, 7, 8 type of thing, a young child. You know, I mean, honestly, if someone were to leave me a child, even though that's not, you know, that's not realistic, drop a baby outside my doorstep, I would be totally in love. I would totally be happy. But then I also selfishly think, girl, if we want to go to this restaurant, if we want to go out here, if we don't want to wake up some days, if I want to just, you know, not have a schedule.
We don't want to wake up. that sounds.
You know, I don't have to.
I don't know.
Right. If I want
to
to do X, Y, and Z, it's like, it's my choice. But when you have a child, you have to structure. If you want to be a good parent, you need to structure your life around that child.
But what if we decide that we want to like raise this child totally differently from the other three? What we said, you know what? I'm tired.
We're tired of being good parents. Let's figure out what it's like to be bad parents.
Just have tons of candy. You know, hey, you know, let's set your own schedule because you know, freedom is the most important thing, and we want you to be free.
Right. Let's just buy stuff for you.
I'm
Instead of teach you anything, we'll just buy material
I'm tired of
things.
holding your hand, so I'm going to put a leash on you and let you roam.
All right, no, that's a little extreme.
Free range children.
What is that?
Just let them roam. Just let them be free. If they want to wear pants, they wear pants.
Right. Yeah. Here's the other extreme. You know, this is where I think I'm liberal, but I'm not that liberal. I am not here for the parents that want to let their little boys wear little dresses when they feel like, or, you know, that's, and I know that in America, apparently that's a very controversial thing, because when you start talking like that, then they start bringing up, you know, this whole gender fluidity and gay rights. And I think those things are totally separate. But me, I do not want to see my little boy in a little dress at 3 or 4 years old. You know, maybe the child will try that, and I get it. Sometimes some children, you know, just like, I think it's okay for a little boy to play with a doll. That doesn't make them gay. That just means they're playing with a toy. Maybe they have a sister and they're doing that. And as long as you don't put so much emphasis or you shame the child, then, you know, that's healthy. But the idea that a 3-year-old or 4-year-old boy knows he wants to be a girl, that's just, I don't believe that. That's just, and you can disagree, but I don't believe that. But that's some of the conversations that people are having here in the US or in the Western world. Kenton, you're not saying anything. That means,
Well, again, I mean, I just think that,
I mean, I really don't care what people think. If they
I
want to
think
be against me, whatever.
no, I just think to each their own. I just again, my approach is that, it's ultimately is, what's best for the child, and the personal choice between the child and the parent, and if that is what is appropriate for that child at that age.
For a little boy to wear a dress?
I don't. Again, it depends upon the child. I mean, what if the child is
At 3 and 4 years old?
again? I'm not an expert in this, so I can't comment. I don't know. To sit there and say, again, because it's a spectrum. So what is normative, and then what is that you will have individuals and children that will are either transgendered, or they have a different identity, and so be it. And so it's again, it's about what is appropriate. Now, if the parent is forcing upon the child to wear a dress.
No, I don't think that's ever any other
well,
parents
no.
will say they're forcing. No, no,
No,
no.
of course the parent
Some
won't
of
say
them,
it.
but
Won't say it, but the thing is that if
they're not forcing their
but,
kid to do that. I don't think they.
No, but if again the child is, in many ways it is going to be influenced by the parent. So if the parent influences the child, that okay, yeah, this is what's normative.
But one of those what I consider permissive parents.
Right.
There
yeah.
are those permissive parents
Right.
where, oh, my child likes pink. Oh, my child likes, dolls, assuming it's a boy. Oh, therefore, I assume he is gay. No, maybe he's just experimenting and he's just trying to figure out his way. You came with all your labels and, liberal ideas, if you will, and decided that now I need to go buy my son more dolls and more pink dresses. And I don't know. I don't know.
Again, this is why
It's just getting
no.
too much for me.
Well,
Like I said, I'm liberal, but this stuff is getting a little too
I
much
think,
for me.
Well, this is where I differ a little bit, respectfully, in the sense is that, again, parenting is one of those very sensitive things where, again, each person brings it in, and ultimately, in my mind, the test is that what is healthy for the child and what is healthy for the parent in regards in the relationship with the child. And that if this again is where it's a healthy self-image, and the child is able to develop in a way that is not dysfunctional and destructive to themselves and to other people, then so be it. And that's part of the customization part of where the needs of the child is. So because you do have children that are transgendered
I
and stuff
get
like
that.
that. So
Well, I get that, but I think again, I'm using the example of the 3 and 4 year olds or the 5 year olds even. I just think that decisions about sexuality, we should let the child make that decision for themselves at some point when they're old enough to do that. I think the idea of sexuality and sexual maturity, I personally don't think those life-changing decisions need to happen at 4, 5, 6 year olds.
Well,
I just
no.
don't think so. I think we're messing up a lot of kids in doing that. That's just my personal opinion, and I'm not an expert in human sexuality, but I would like to think I'm a pretty darn good parent.
Well, again, we're dealing with the difference between gender and
Sure,
sexuality.
Sure.
Okay, and so those are different.
Sure, but
Gender
yeah.
roles, again, it's no different than the roles we place on, male and female and
Right, and
society's
some of
roles and
those
stuff. So just like
roles
before, like,
are old-fashioned. I get that.
girls don't wear pants,
Right.
and so it's like that things, which implies that if they wore pants, that they were not feminine, and so I
Or
think
for
that.
religious reasons, there are people who still believe that, even here in the
Well,
US.
yeah,
There are
but
people
but
who
but
still.
but again, the normative has shifted. So
Hmm.
before that was like more of a majority restrictive approach, but because again, in many ways, women, weren't involved in workforce and stuff. So again, there's some normative shifting,
Right.
and so that's again, gender roles and social roles in regards to that. Then you have sexuality and identification. Again, there's a spectrum. And so again, that's all adds into the complexity of it. So I think again, part of litmus is again is what is healthy and beneficial to the child, specifically to that child. I think sometimes when we get into the danger zone is when we start applying you know, value to certain functions in exclusion to some of the exceptions. And then we marginalize people and stuff like that. So again, it's where we want to.
I mean, to me, it's the same. It's like saying a 3-year-old that says, this is a little extreme. A 3-year-old that says, I just want to eat candy. I want to eat candy, or can I have all the candy in the world? And you as a parent, if you're the permissive type, you just, you feel like you love your child. Well, go ahead, eat all the candy. Well, guess what? That kid grows up now, their teeth are all rotten. And you were like, well, I did it out of love. That's what the child wanted, so I gave it to them. My
So
approach is that, or opinion is that, no, sometimes you need to be the parent, and sometimes you have to know, you also have to have certain values in place, and it should be okay to say no. When you're grown, you can go do that. But as long as you're in my house right now, these are what I think are appropriate ways to conduct yourself, or appropriate diet to have. And I know it doesn't really,
yeah,
it's not quite matching up with the example, but
yeah.
I'm just saying that I personally, these are my values, or this is what I believe, and I'm not apologizing for that if someone else
Yeah,
doesn't
and
agree.
well, and see again, this is and that's just, again.
Even though I live in the US, and even though people assume, oh, we're liberal and all of that
I
stuff.
don't know if people assume that, but I think that, again, this is where, we talked about earlier into the segment in regards to managing conflict between value systems, because,
Right.
again, when we raise our children, again, there's a general assumption, and for the majority of the time that they will adopt your value system. Of course, they grow up into it, but
So here's like a question for a scenario, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we're, obviously also different generation, right? I remember asking my daughter, I remember asking my daughter how she feels about, say, dating a man who is, let's say, bisexual. Yeah, I actually remember having that conversation, because I have those type of conversations with my kids. And, and she's kind of like, oh, no big deal. Nowadays people are, gender fluid. And, if she's dating a guy, but he's in love with her and he cares about her, it wouldn't bother her if the guy was bisexual, And I'm looking at her like, are you crazy? But, I get it. Different generation. I just said to her, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Do not bring home no man that you are telling me, or has a history, is bisexual. That's just not going to work. And I don't think it's wise to even set yourself up like that. Like, just some things that I personally feel like it's not acceptable to me, and that I'm never going to be comfortable with. But I get it that there are people, even my own children, that are going to have a different point of view based on the way they are being raised, or not based on their being raised, but based on the things that they are taught, for example, in school. different than what they learn from us as parents, you know. I mean, how do you feel about that? She comes home and she tells you her boyfriend is bisexual.
Well, first I have to get over the fact that, she got a boyfriend, so that creates that protective feeling. So,
Okay.
she brings well, first of all, I got to hear from him that he's bisexual. But I mean, she
You
tells
think
all,
he gonna tell you he's bisexual?
well, he's got to tell me something. I guess,
No, your daughter
well,
told
when he
you.
comes in and he takes off his heels, I guess I'll know. I don't know.
Ooh, you just offended a bunch of people right now.
What? I
What do you
don't
mean?
know.
Why was he wearing heels?
I don't know.
Why is he wearing
Maybe
heels?
I caught him trying to wear your heels. I have
Oh
no idea.
God.
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I'll be sitting there confused. I'll be just saying, like, is this, I mean, when we get to that bridge or bridges or whatever it is, I think my daughter will know. It'll be a very interesting conversation.
Yeah.
I think that, again, it creates, some challenges for, in that scenario. But, yeah, it's just going to have to be a talk. So
It's too late then. It's too late then.
but see, that's the thing. If she already has a boyfriend, he's bisexual. I mean, again,
Oh,
what
God
does that
forbid!
mean?
God forbid!
Yeah, I know.
This is
how
when
you're
the
gonna get upset.
African comes out.
This
I'm
is,
sorry. This is when the African comes out. I cannot.
I mean, and what it's gonna, this is time is when they have the conversations on Thanksgiving, right? Oh, can you pass the leg? Oh, you like turkey? And he'll be saying like, yeah, I like turkey. Maybe, or I like something else. I don't know. And I'll be like, what?
What?
I'll be all confused. It'll be Thanksgiving.
No, but I mean, and then I hope somebody doesn't think we're being homophobic or I'm being homophobic. It's not like that. I don't think so, because then on the other hand, I'll be honest, if my son, for example, I'm not joking, if my son right now one of my sons told me they were gay.
It's a lie.
Did you let me finish?
I'm sorry.
If one of my sons told me they were gay, I think I would, of course. I don't know if I should say of course, but because maybe it's not of course, but of course I would be a little disappointed. But because I know my sons and I love my sons unconditionally, I honestly think I would love them irregardless.
Yeah, you just love them.
And I would, I would try to get to understand their point of view and understand, their partner's point of view, or get to know their partner. But I'm sure there's always going to be a part of me that would feel some kind of way, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, no, it's totally understandable. And, there's, period of adjustment stuff. And sometimes, like, again, that's the thing. It's like, you don't know, because again, if that's not something that you're part of, and, that lifestyle, and to understand it, but your son is still their son. Our son is still our son. And so,
Right.
you love
And I
our
would never
son.
blame myself as a parent, because I know there's some, really
Why would you?
not traditional, conservative parents sometimes that do blame themselves.
Oh.
You'll find the mom or the dad or someone that sits there, blaming themselves for why their child has made certain choices, or why their child is a certain way, and maybe it wasn't a choice.
Well, because again,
You
because they see that as a
Failure on their
failure or a
part.
blight or a negative. But again, I think that's where the harm comes in, is going back to the fact that about creating that space that's safe because ultimately your child's still your child,
Right.
and love is love, right? And if you believe that love can conquer all, and you have differences, and that's a difference. But again, it's not a fatal difference. It's just
Right. And
so-
going back to,
Right.
as long as my child isn't breaking the law,
Yeah, it's not eating people.
is not killing or eating people, then we'll get through it.
I mean, yeah, exactly. And so I think, yeah, to be honest, I think that's where it is. It's not homophobic to say that you're not comfortable initially, because again, it's something new. It's something unknown. Just because you have gay friends doesn't automatically make you where you're like, yeah,
Yeah, it's just like the white person who goes, "Well, I have black friends."
but
Doesn't mean you can't be racist,
well, it's not that,
or
well, it's
not
not that,
understanding.
but no,
You know,
again, you're an ally, but again, like many times that if your own child is, again, it's like, okay, you're trying to, and then if you have a conservative perspective, which is, and it can make it a challenge, but, there are people who are conservative and they have, gay friends or gay, children. Doesn't mean they love them any less. Because in the end, it's still your child. It's still the person that that you're with, and so they're being gay is just another aspect of them. It's not the
right,
totality of
right.
of their spirit. So I think it's just it's like anything. It's just like, oh, okay, but then you can you learn to be open and to be caring and stuff like that, because all you want is the best for anyone.
Right.
And
I think I would be.
and so then going back to our daughter's bisexual boyfriend,
God forbid. Oh.
again it's kind of like, but again it's her relationship, and you want her, will it survive and stuff? The odds are not, probably not, because again it's like
Why wouldn't it survive?
well, because when you're dealing with someone that's bisexual, it's
Well,
they
no, if
can't.
they're committed, I mean, okay, seriously, I think you can be bisexual, but as long as you're committed you're with one person and you're faithful, then okay, whether you have chosen to be with a man or chosen to be with a woman and you're committed, then that's fine. But I think the challenge is if you're cheating or if you're not committed and you're going between both, while you're in a relationship, in which case it really doesn't matter whether you're bisexual or not, because even when you're straight, if you are not committed to one person and you're bouncing between different people, that's a problem.
See, so that's, you just got to the
I just
point.
answered my point, right?
That's right.
No, it would still bother me because all like I have in my head is that, for
See,
example,
folks, that's how you do it.
that's how you do what?
So what you do is you go ahead, you posit it, and you move it towards the negative, and then what happens is that the other individual then adopts the positive out of it, because then they see that the negative negates their
What?
original thought.
What? No, it's no. I'm just saying it would still be a little bit of a problem, but I'm
But
saying,
now it's a little problem versus a big problem.
right. You know what would be a worse problem? If my child, for example, told me they were atheist. Like, I think that's a problem for me.
Yeah, it's a little
Because
bit.
I strongly believe in God and a higher power. And please don't ask me what my religion is. I get so tired of people asking me, what is your religion? I see you've got an Arabic name or you've got a Muslim name. Your children have Muslim names. So are you Muslim? Are you not Muslim? Like, I am so tired of that question. None of your business. I don't see how it changes anything. All I'm telling you is I strongly believe in God. And I really, would have a problem if one of my children said they don't believe in God or that they were atheist. Like, it just hurts me to my core. It really does. And we're not a religious family. We're really, we're not a family that is super ultra religious. I'm not here to quote the Bible or quote the Quran to you. And I'd appreciate it if you don't do the same. I think my relationship with God is my relationship with God, and I don't see how anyone is any closer to God than I am. So I can't stand these people on their pedestal, religious pedestals, spewing out who they think is going to heaven or hell. Keep that to yourself.
My biggest concern is that you tend to hold back and not speak your mind.
That I will never do.
And
yeah.
I just think that sometimes you come across very shy.
Right. Very shy
reserved.
and reserved. You're right. I really do need to give people my opinion more often, right?
You should. No, I mean, yeah. Again, that's again, I can understand if my child, our child,
Right.
but
I will blame you. If they come to me and they
you
say
blame me
they're
anyways.
atheists, I'll be like, because you didn't do a good enough job, promoting religion or instilling God in them. That's who I will blame.
Well, you can blame me all you want. I mean, I just be like, and then I'll talk to them. I said, oh, so you told your mom you're an atheist? Yeah, I told her. I said, I'd be like, well, that's great. But why? One, why did you have to tell her so that way you have to do it at Thanksgiving? And then the second thing is that, I can understand where one, would say that they're an atheist. But I would be upset in the sense that it can happen because they've lost faith in the goodness of things, and so it's more about.
Or they think they're so damn smart that they can figure everything out with science, because those are the kind of people I've actually met when they start to argue atheism, or argue why they are atheists. It always, a lot of times, comes down to, whatever theory or scientific background that they have. And I'm always looking at them like,
Well,
okay.
yeah, they're using the argument of authority. That's what it is, and that's just a logic argument. But that's because you don't have. But the thing is, with science, anything it's a body of knowledge that's based upon not knowing, and then it's just discovery. But
Right.
that doesn't mean that because you haven't discovered it, it doesn't exist. So that creates a conundrum. So again, but that's where faith comes in, the faith and belief in what is not seen, right? So again, going back, if our children come and say that they're atheists. Now, I mean, I had a conversation with one of them, and they said, well, I think I might be more agnostic, meaning that
What does that mean?
which means that you believe in God, you just don't have a conviction that that God is actively participating per se. And I think part of it is because, again, seeing so much of the negativity and so many people that claim that they are Christians or they have the faith tradition, but they engage in so much hurtful and negative hatred towards others, even of those that are different of themselves.
Right.
That is not what our faith teaches us. Our faith teaches us to love ourselves. What are the two commandments, or the two things that Christ taught us? To love God with all your heart and to love your neighbor as yourself. Well, if your neighbor is of a different race, of a different culture, of a different faith, is gay,
A different political faith.
doesn't matter. But that's the thing. God,
Yeah.
if you're truly of that faith tradition, then you are to love that person, irregardless. Because Christ said himself that he came to save the sinner. That's the whole point. He came to save the lost and the broken. So if I'm privileged, like some of these mega churches where they're all about gimme, 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 but that's not really what the faith tradition. So if you look at that and you say, I don't want to be a part of that. So who's really guilty of that? We have to look at ourselves, is that we not do the good that we're supposed to do. And so we are letting down our younger generation because we are being extremely selfish ourselves.
Mm-mm.
And that's the hard truth of it, is that we're not being good stewards of our future because we're not leading, because we're leading by the wrong example of selfishness, And so then they've lost faith, not because it's their fault, it's really our fault, because we're not being the shepherd that we should be to our children.
Well, in a big, broad sense, I get that.
But
let one of my children come to me again and say they're atheist or all of that. I'm not going to be thinking about we have failed them. No, I'm not. That's not what I'm going to be thinking about.
Well, that's why you don't think about that. That's what I think.
Okay, so I get the big,
So-
big picture philosophically. I get that.
What I'm thinking about is making sure there's no shoes lying around, so stuff be flying around.
Anyway, Kenton,
So there we go.
All right, y'all. Thanks for hanging out with us. I know we go all over the place.
You can't follow the map. There's no maps.
That's the thing. In life, there is no real map. It's an illusion.
Well, there is a map. You know, there are maps. You know, the Bible's a map. The Quran's a map. You know, there's different faith traditions are maps. You know, I think those are maps. You know, even even philosophies provide maps like Stoicism. I mean, there are maps out there if we are willing to learn and open our hearts up to them. So there are maps.
Okay, y'all.
All right.
We will see you Sunday, hopefully.
Yeah.
God willing, we'll
Bless
see
you
you
all.
Sunday.
If you have any comments and stuff, I know this one's gonna raise some thoughts, but
Maybe.
maybe not. But again, anything that you like, you know, again, appreciate everything, appreciate everyone. You know, take care of yourselves. You know, again.
Stay warm. It's really cold out there.
Yeah, and be healthy. And wish you all the best and success and be blessed. Okay.
Bye.
All right,
How do you
take
say
care.
bye in different cultures?
Say
Adios.
yeah.
Oh, we both said that at the same time.
Yeah, one of
Adios.
us.
Say Anjama. That's Hausa for goodbye. What else?
Peace out.
Peace out. Peace. What else? Another language. Whatever your language is, say it right in the comment. Your language, say what is it in goodbye. I need to learn another language. I was like, how do you say it in, I don't know, Japanese or in Korean or in Vietnamese? We don't know, right? We don't
Working on
know.
that.
Damn, we need to learn another
Au revoir,
language.
au revoir.
Au revoir.
Yeah,
Yeah, au
that's right.
revoir. Spanish? Au revoir.
Yeah, that's fine.
Bye.
All right, bye.
Boo, click the X
Okay.
out. Bye.